I played my first game of D&D in 1979 when I was 8 years old. But I didn't really start playing a lot until 1983 when I got my own copy of the Metzer Basic Red box set. And from then on, it's been a whirlwind of all kinds of games. But in all that time, I have been wrong about a fundamental core principle rule of Dungeons and Dragons. Let's talk about that. Okay, so what have I been wrong about all this time? Hit points, and how you get them back, and what they represent. Because this entire time, I have been playing the game on both sides of the Dungeon Master screen under the assumption that hit points represent physical damage to your character, to monsters. That's not the case, and it hasn't been the case since Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 1st edition. Hit points represent not only how much physical damage you can take as your character, but it also represents fatigue, mental fatigue, luck, just a number of factors. Because when you stop and think about it, realistically, according to Gary Gygax in the 1st edition rules, a normal person can take 4 hit points of damage before they die. We're playing heroes who each level gain more and more and more and more hit points. Does it stand to reason that the more levels you go up, that you would sustain more and more damage before dying? No. The additional hit points represent a whole bunch of other factors. Your ability to not become tired during a fight, luck factors because you're getting better at fighting, that kind of thing. And that principle to how hit points are and how they work has carried through all the way to 5th edition. So, yeah. So I've been a number of times here online saying that the short and long rest mechanics of 5th edition make absolutely no sense to me. But when viewing hit points the way I just described, they make absolute perfect sense. Short and long rests would work to restore your hit points because hit points don't 100% represent physical damage. We all know that during a short rest, you can spend hit die to regain some hit points. You can roll as many hit die up to your maximum number of hit die, which is great. That short rest would restore some of your fatigue, and of course it's random how much you get when you roll the dice. During a long rest, not only do you regain all of your hit points back, because again, the majority of your hit points represent fatigue, both mental and whatever, you get all your hit points back, and that makes sense. But the cool thing about it now, I think, is during the long rest, you get some of those spent hit die back that you would use during your short rest, but only half of your maximum hit die. So the long rest eventually stops becoming useful the more you use it, right? In a certain time frame. So why did I have this misconception about hit points? I think a lot of us old timers do have this misconception about hit points. I think there's 2 reasons. One, if you look at the basic rule books, the red books, it describes hit points as the amount of damage you can take before you die. That's the extent for how they are described. And nothing more than that. But if you look at the 1st edition, both Player's Handbook and Dungeon Master Guide, it explains it in much more detail, like I described to you earlier. I think the other thing, too, is that when we are sitting down at a table to teach people how to play, myself and probably others, when you are describing rules or telling them what each of the different things mean on the character sheet, it is easiest to say, Hit points represents how much damage you can take before your character falls unconscious in the case of 5th edition. That's the easiest way to describe it. That's the easiest way to get a new person into the game to understand. And nowadays people grew up playing video games that would have some form of, if you're playing a role-playing game or whatever, would have some form of way to track your character's life force, and it's usually represented by hit points or health or something like that. And you take damage, the health goes down. Video games, it is almost always 100% a representation of physical damage. So yeah, I was wrong. Short and long rests make a lot of sense now, and I'm not going to bitch about it anymore. Why did it take me so long to figure this out? I don't know. I don't know. But now that I do know and it makes sense, yeah. So, I'm not afraid to admit when I was wrong. I'm not afraid to learn new things. And if the new things make sense overall, I can explain. Great. Anyway, subscribe for more dumbassery from me, I guess.